When I called to ask when the wedding was, she said, "We already got married, Mom. We only invited people who really matter. Just send the beach house keys and stop being so dramatic." I just smiled and hung up. 3 days later, I left a wedding gift at their door that made her husband scream nonstop. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how we got here, because this story didn't start with that phone call. It started 2 years ago when my daughter Madison brought home Trevor for the first time. I'm Carol, 65 years old, and until 3 days ago, I thought I knew my daughter. We used to talk every day. She'd call during her lunch break, and we'd chat about everything and nothing. Work gossip, the latest Netflix series, her dating disasters. When she met Trevor, I was genuinely happy for her. She deserved someone who appreciated her brilliant mind and kind heart. "Mom, he's different," she'd said that first night, practically glowing. "He really gets me." I'd prepared my famous lasagna, the one Madison had been requesting since she was 12. Trevor arrived in an expensive suit, carrying roses and compliments about my home. He was handsome in that polished way that usually made me suspicious. But Madison was so happy, I pushed my doubts aside. During dinner, he asked thoughtful questions about my nursing career and seemed genuinely interested in my stories. He complimented the lasagna, helped clear the table, and even offered to do dishes. Perfect gentleman behavior that should have been charming, but felt somehow rehearsed. "Your mother raised an amazing daughter," he told me as he hugged me goodbye. "You must be so proud." I was proud. Madison had a successful marketing career, owned her own condo, and had never needed to rely on anyone for anything. She was independent, strong-willed, and confident, everything I'd raised her to be. But that night, something nagged at me. Maybe it was the way he spoke about Madison, like she was a prize he'd won, or how he'd mentioned my beautiful beachfront property 3 times during dinner. I owned a small beach house in Cape Cod that had been in my family for 15 years, a place where Madison and I spent every summer together. "He's very interested in our traditions," I told my sister Janet the next day. "That's sweet, Carol. It means he wants to be part of the family." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But something about Trevor's perfect smile reminded me of my ex-husband Robert, Madison's father. Robert had that same charm, that same way of making you feel special until he decided you were no longer useful to him. Over the next few months, I watched Trevor slowly insert himself into every aspect of Madison's life. He had opinions about her friends, her job, even her relationship with me. The daily phone calls became weekly, then monthly, then barely at all. "Trevor thinks I should focus more on our relationship," Madison explained when I asked why she seemed distant. "He says successful couples prioritize each other." That should have been my first red flag, but I told myself I was being overprotective. Madison was 28, perfectly capable of making her own decisions. If she was happy, I should be happy for her. But then came the engagement party I wasn't invited to. I found out about Madison's engagement the same way strangers did, through Facebook. A photo of her left hand wearing a massive diamond ring, with the caption, "He asked." I said yes, can't wait to start our forever together. 53 likes and counting. Comments from friends and co-workers congratulating her. Not one of them asking where her mother was, because most of them had probably assumed I already knew. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes, my coffee growing cold as I tried to process what I was seeing. My daughter was engaged, and I'd learned about it from social media. I called her immediately. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry." Madison's voice was breathless, excited. "It just happened last night, and we were so caught up in the moment. Trevor surprised me at our favorite restaurant, and then we went back to his place and called his parents. And it got so late, and I was going to call you this morning, I swear." "Congratulations, sweetheart." I forced warmth into my voice. "Tell me everything." And she did. For 20 minutes, she gushed about the proposal, the ring, how romantic it all was, how Trevor's parents had immediately started planning an engagement party at their country club, how they were thinking of a spring wedding. "When's the engagement party?" I asked. There was a pause. "Next Saturday. It's going to be small, just immediate family and a few close friends." "Should I plan to drive down Friday night?" Another pause, longer this time. "Mom, about that. Trevor's family has very specific ideas about these events. His mother is quite traditional, and she's planned everything according to their customs." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What does that mean, Madison? It means, well, it's really just for Trevor's side of the family, and a few of our couple friends. It's not that you're not important. It's just that they have this way of doing things, and Trevor thinks it's better if we respect that. Trevor thinks. Everything had become about what Trevor thinks. I see. I kept my voice carefully neutral. And what do you think? I think Trevor knows his family better than I do, and I want to start off on the right foot with them. You understand, right? We'll do something special, just the three of us soon. That was 6 months ago. We never did anything special, just the three of us. In fact, I'd only seen Trevor twice since then, and both times he'd been polite but distant, like I was Madison's elderly aunt he had to tolerate rather than her mother, who'd raised her alone after her father abandoned us when she was 8. The wedding planning happened around me, not with me. Madison would mention details in passing. They'd found a venue, booked a photographer, chosen flowers. But when I offered to help or asked about specific plans, I was met with vague responses about how Trevor's handling most of it, or his mother has connections. 3 months ago, I asked about the date so I could plan time off from my part-time job at the local library. We're thinking early October, Madison said. Probably the second weekend. Trevor's researching venues. That sounds lovely. October in New England is beautiful. Are you thinking of having it at the beach house? I could. Oh no, Mom. Trevor wants something more elegant, more sophisticated than a backyard beach wedding. The dismissal stung more than I expected. Madison had always loved our beach house. As a child, she'd declared she wanted to get married there someday, barefoot in the sand with fairy lights strung between the dunes. Of course, I said. Whatever makes you happy. But I wasn't invited to the venue tours. I wasn't asked about the guest list. I wasn't included in the dress shopping trips that Madison posted about on Instagram, her future mother-in-law beaming beside her in every photo. I was becoming a spectator in my own daughter's life. The final blow came exactly 2 weeks ago. Madison called while I was reorganizing my linen closet, a mundane Tuesday evening task that would be forever marked in my memory as the moment everything changed. Mom, I need to ask you about something, and I need you to be cool about it. Nothing good ever followed that phrase, but I took a deep breath and sat down on my bed. What is it, sweetheart? Trevor's been doing some research about family dynamics and healthy boundaries in marriage. He thinks it's really important that we establish our independence as a couple from the very beginning. I felt that familiar chill. What kind of independence? Well, he pointed out that I've been relying on you emotionally for most of my life, like calling you when I'm stressed or upset instead of working through things with my partner. He thinks that might create problems in our marriage. Madison, talking to your mother when you're upset isn't unhealthy. It's normal. But is it? Trevor showed me some articles about women who prioritize their mothers over their husbands and how that destroys marriages. I don't want to be that wife, Mom. I closed my eyes, recognizing the manipulation for what it was. Trevor was isolating Madison from her support system, and he was making her believe it was for her own good. What does this mean practically? I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. It means we need to establish some boundaries. Less frequent contact, more space for Trevor and me to build our own traditions. And, she hesitated, Trevor thinks it would be healthier if we spent the holidays with his family this year. Just to break the pattern of dependence. The holidays. We'd spent every Christmas together since Robert left. It was our tradition. Our time. Madison would drive up from Boston on Christmas Eve, and we'd stay in our pajamas until noon, drinking hot chocolate and opening presents like she was still 12 years old. I see. My voice sounded strange, distant. Anything else? Actually, yes. Trevor thinks the beach house situation is complicated. What about the beach house? Well, you know I've always assumed I'd inherit it someday. But Trevor pointed out that puts a lot of pressure on our relationship. Like, he feels like he can never truly relax there because it's not really ours, it's yours. And if something happened between us and you, we'd lose our vacation spot. I gripped the phone tighter. Are you asking me to sign the house over to you? Not exactly. Trevor thinks it would be better if we just found our own place. Somewhere that's truly ours. He doesn't want to feel like he's constantly under scrutiny from you when we're supposed to be relaxing. Under scrutiny. From me, the woman who'd barely seen him in the past year. Madison, that house has been in our family for 15 years. It's where you learn to swim, where we've made thousands of memories together. I know, Mom, and I treasure those memories, but I'm starting a new family now, with Trevor, and he needs to feel like we have our own special places. Our own special places. Places that didn't include me. I ended that conversation with promises to think about everything and respect their need for space. But inside, I was already planning. Not revenge, not yet. But I was going to find out exactly who Trevor really was and what he wanted from my daughter. It took me exactly 1 week of careful internet searches and a few phone calls to Madison's college friends to piece together Trevor's pattern. Madison wasn't his first wealthy, naive girlfriend. There was Emma, whose family owned a successful restaurant chain. She'd also been isolated from her family before their wedding was called off when her father discovered Trevor's gambling debts. And before Emma, there was Sarah, whose trust fund Trevor had tried to access before her brothers intervened. Trevor Morrison wasn't just controlling. He was a predator who specialized in intelligent, successful women with family money. And Madison, with her successful career and expectation of inheriting valuable beachfront property, was his latest mark. That's when I started planning my wedding gift. The phone call that changed everything came 3 days ago, on a Wednesday morning while I was deadheading my roses. Madison's name appeared on my phone screen, and for a split second, I felt that old surge of joy before remembering how things stood between us now. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was different, flat, mechanical. "Hello, sweetheart. How are you? I'm calling to let you know that Trevor and I got married yesterday. It was a small ceremony, just immediate family and our closest friends." I stopped breathing. "Yesterday? But I thought you were having a wedding in October." We decided to do something more intimate. Trevor felt like a big wedding was too much pressure, too commercial. We found a beautiful venue in Martha's Vineyard and kept it simple. Simple. And secret, apparently. "Congratulations," I managed. "I'm sure it was beautiful." It was. Perfect, really. Trevor's parents were there, and his sister flew in from California. My friend Jessica was my maid of honor, and Trevor's best friend Tom was his best man. The photographer got some amazing shots. She was listing off details like she was reading from a catalog, not describing the happiest day of her life. But what struck me most was what she wasn't saying. "That sounds lovely, Madison. I'm happy for you." "Thanks." "Oh, and Mom? Trevor and I were wondering if you could send us the keys to the beach house. We're thinking of spending our honeymoon there since we didn't have time to plan a proper trip." There it was. The real reason for the call. Not to share her joy with her mother, not to include me in this major life milestone, but to ask for the keys to property they'd already decided should be theirs. "The keys to the beach house," I repeated slowly. "Right. Trevor's really excited to see it. I've told him so much about it over the years. He's particularly interested in the renovations you've done and the property value appreciation." Property value appreciation. How romantic. "Madison, when you say you got married yesterday, do you mean you had a ceremony? Or do you mean you're legally married?" "Both. We got the license last week and had the ceremony yesterday." "Why?" "Just clarifying. And you didn't think to invite your mother to your wedding?" There was a pause. "Mom, please don't make this dramatic. It was Trevor's decision to keep it small, and honestly, after everything we talked about regarding boundaries, I thought you'd understand." "I understand perfectly." And I did. I understood that my daughter had married a man who had convinced her that excluding her own mother from her wedding was healthy. I understood that Trevor had succeeded in his plan to isolate Madison from the one person who might have protected her from him. "So you'll send the keys? We're hoping to drive up this Friday." "Of course. Sweetheart, I'll make sure you get them." After I hung up, I sat in my garden for a long time, staring at my roses and thinking about patterns. Trevor followed patterns. He isolated women from their families, convinced them to give him access to their assets, and then probably moved on when he'd gotten what he wanted or when someone started asking too many questions. But Trevor had made one crucial mistake. He'd assumed I was just another helpless mother who would quietly accept being cut out of her daughter's life. He'd underestimated what happens when you back a woman into a corner and take away the thing she loves most in the world. I spent the rest of that day making phone calls and sending emails. By evening, I had everything I needed to give Trevor exactly what he deserved. Not revenge, really. Justice. The wedding gift I was planning would be far more valuable than anything Madison might find on her registry. It would be the gift of truth. I've always believed that the best gifts are the ones that keep on giving. So when I drove to Madison and Trevor's apartment that Friday morning, I made sure my wedding present would provide lasting memories. The package was beautifully wrapped in silver paper with an elegant white bow. Inside was a leather portfolio containing several items that I'd spent the past 72 hours carefully assembling. Trevor was going to love learning about his new family connections. I left it outside their door with a note. "Congratulations on your marriage. Every new husband should know about his wife's family history. With love, Carol." Then I went home and waited. The call came at 2:17 p.m. Madison's number, but Trevor's voice, and he was screaming. "What the hell is wrong with you, you crazy old witch? How dare you send us this garbage?" I set down my teacup gently. "Hello, Trevor. I take it you opened your wedding gift? This isn't funny. This is harassment. I'm calling the police." "I'm confused. Dear, what exactly would you report? That your mother-in-law gave you a wedding gift containing..."